And there we go, everyone. We are back again for another fantastic conversation on Friday Night Counter Attack. And they say the company you keep is what represents you and how well you are as a person, how well you do as a person. If tonight's guests are a representation of how well I do as a person, how well I am, I think I'm doing pretty well, which is quite nice. So we've got two very special guests to join me for the top 10 Manchester United strikers in the Premier League era. And yes, we are doing it in the Premier League era because there's no point in talking about players that we've never seen. And we've got someone who can talk to us all about the Premier League, someone who's been working for in football journalism for a long, long time now, staff editor for The Athletic, Anthony Hay. Anthony, it's good to see you again, my friend. I'm looking forward to our foot golf game this summer. How are you doing?
I'm doing all good. Thanks for having me on again, Hamza. It's been a long time.
It's been a
And I
long
haven't been in
time.
journalism that long. I'm not that old, mate.
Don't worry, I needed to make the audience seem like we knew who we got on. We got the right person on, which is pretty good. So now it's nice to see you again. And as always, I'm really happy you're on the podcast today. Someone else who I'm very happy to join us today is someone who I really enjoy listening to his content on traveling more than football. No offense, Zim, but you haven't really been uploading much on your football content creation for a good number of months now.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Anthony's introduction was definitely more suitable for this podcast than mine. But I'd say, yeah, I'm just a general football connoisseur, football enthusiast. So yeah, I have knowledge without the backing or qualifications. So yeah,
I mean that makes two of us, so we're all good. Actually, I've got backing. I would say my scouting qualifications count for something in the real world. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. And obviously, being one of the co-hosts of Away Gamers podcast as well, like I said, I haven't seen that happening for a while, so it's been good to get you back on, and hopefully we can see a bit more from the three of us over the next coming weeks as well. Like we said, it's now the time of recording. We're in the summer months of May. Looking forward to better weather. Hopefully, looking forward to potentially getting a reunited foot golf session in London this summer coming up. So I'm really looking forward to what we've got going on. And I'm really looking forward to what topic we've got today, because as opposed to talking about Wout Weghorst and Anthony Martial and Anthony, Jadon Sancho, Facundo Pellistri, and Anthony Elanga, we are slacking Manchester United fans in enjoying attacking players that we've got this season. Bruno Fernandes has done quite well. Marcus Rashford has done quite well. Everyone else is kind of hitting, but not really hitting consistently, which ain't great to say. So I thought, you know what, as we like to do on Friday Night Counter Attack, sometimes we do like to go back in time. We're going back in our little TARDIS as we were going back on memory lane, and we're going to be talking about the top 10 Manchester United Premier League strikers in the Premier League era. But I wanted to kind of ask you before we crack on and before our audience get on involved with this as well. Did you both prepare a list for top 10s?
No.
Anthony, did you?
I did. I've done a bit of research.
That's why Anthony has the qualifications that we don't.
Yeah,
because I'm a journalist. I've got to do my research.
yeah.
So what I'm thinking, Zim, is if there's a tie break between us, if there's some of us saying yes, some are saying no, I think Anthony may have the deciding vote on which player goes where in our joint top 10 list as well.
That's a lot of power, though. I don't know if I'm willing to hand over that much power, you know.
I mean, no one man could have all that power, but if it's one of the three of us, it's got to be Anthony, I'm thinking.
Yeah,
because
I'll be the judge. Yeah,
judge, jury, and executioner, which is going to be quite nice. So what I'm going to do, just so it's a bit different to how we're kind of going about it, is we are going to be talking about strikers. We are going to be talking about number 9s. We are going to be talking about players who have played for Manchester United in the number 9 as a striking position. We are also going to be talking about players who have maybe played in a 2 up front. So, for example, if we're going to talk about Teddy Sheringham or Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, sometimes they played elsewhere in the pitch, but more times than not, they played as a striker. Wayne Rooney will count as a striker for this one. Eric Cantona and Mark Hughes are going to count as a striker as well. So how we're going to kind of go about it is we are going to go from 10, 9 and above to number 1. And it's going to be more of a Russian roulette type thing. So if we find a player that we think all of us unanimously agree upon 10, then it's going to go for it. So for example, if I think, you know what, Ruud Van Nistelrooy deserves to be number 5, Zim's going to say, you know what, I think he should be number 3. Anthony, you would then get the deciding vote in terms of actually Hamza, I think is more of a number 3 than number 5 in this list as well, which would be good fun. Zim, why don't we start off with you and who you think should be number 10 in the Premier League era of strikers for Manchester United? Because we're going to go one place at a time, so we're not always going to be arguing about the top 10 list as well. But obviously, Anthony gets to decide and vote. I've got someone in mind who I think would be really good for number 10, but I wanted to kind of get your perspective on it, because obviously you like choosing players who have a bit of flair, a bit of je ne sais quoi, a bit of vavavoom. Are we going to go somewhere like Louis Saha to kind of make this top 10 list? Or are we going to go somewhere where someone like a Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who came in for a year or so on a free, won us a couple of trophies and then kind of buggered off? What's your kind of thought process for this, Tim? Where are we going
Yeah,
with
I
this?
mean, well, normally my thought process sort of I get caught between choosing a player that I have a lot of affection towards because they've just given me so much joy, and there isn't necessarily a tangible thing that I can say, this is why you are better than so and so. So I get caught between choosing those ones or ones who are just out and out quality, like a
Yeah,
gunman. So I'm gonna start off with sort of somewhere in between, someone who was instrumental for our treble win, someone who wasn't necessarily a starter but was very impactful. You know which direction I'm going with. Begins with an S. The surname begins with an S, but still doesn't give it fully away. So I'm gonna go with Teddy Sheringham. I'm gonna go
Teddy
with Teddy
Sheringham.
number 10. Yeah, you thought I was gonna say someone else, but
Yeah.
might be a bit higher on the list.
Fun fact. Fun fact. The reason I wanted to do this podcast was because I literally listened to the Teddy Sheringham podcast from the Man United official podcast as well, and I was listening back to it. And I was thinking he was so impactful. But
Yeah,
when Man United fans talk about strikers of the past, he rarely gets mentioned, and it's quite sad to see because he only came in for a short period of time at Manchester United. He had such a big career previously at Millwall and Tottenham Hotspur as well. And when he came into Man United in his second season, he won the treble, which was unreal. He scored in the FA Cup final, scored the equaliser in the Champions League final, and assisted in a way with that little flick on to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to win the Champions League final as well, which is unreal. So Teddy Sheringham at number 10. You know what, Antti? What would you say with Teddy Sheringham? Has he made your top 10 list? What are you thinking of this one?
So when I wrote my top 10 list earlier, I actually had Sheringham at number 9, but then I rubbed him out only because I was born in 91. Obviously, Sheringham was in his pomp at 98, 99. So I can't really vividly remember him as a footballer. Obviously, I remember him when he was like 40, like towards the end of his career. But I can't really remember him in his pomp at Man United. So I couldn't put him in my top 10. But obviously, I respect what he done in terms of the treble team. So I think having him at number 10 is fine with me. I could probably fit him in somewhere in mine. But yeah, I actually rubbed him out of mine.
Oh, my days.
Just on that, Anthony, I have a feeling that someone else is going to be in your top 10 who you didn't get to see much. So it's an interesting argument you use there, but let's see as we go further along down the list.
Yeah, I think the other guy who we're going to talk about, he was just more impactful. And obviously my dad had a big saying, like who I supported and who the players he grew up watching. So yeah, he'll come into my list. But yeah, Sheringham just about didn't make it, but I can have him at number 10.
That's good. The judge is going. Judge Anthony is happy with us going with Teddy Sheringham at number 10, which is pretty good. So for number 9 as well, I'm happy with Teddy Sheringham at number 10. Obviously, great player, scored amazing goals for Manchester United, and very impactful for what he was at Manchester United. Had that little spat with Andy Cole. Apparently, didn't really get on quite well personally, but obviously got on professionally, which obviously helps Manchester United. I think we need a bit more of that in Premier League football. Players that don't really get on as friends, but get on as colleagues, just to get them to be better players and better teams in general, which is great. I'm wearing the shirt for a reason. We haven't had many Argentinian strikers in the past at Manchester United, but the Argentinian striker we had in that time period of 2007 to 2009 was part of a double winning team. He was also part of a Premier League winning team and a League Cup. So he won the double. He won a double in 2008 and a double in 2009. He was impactful in all the games that he played in that season, barring probably 3 or 4 where he didn't really turn up in those games. But the fact that you can name a handful of his bad games or a handful of his good games goes to show how well of a striker he was. He then obviously moved to our arch rivals, Manchester City. He then decided to play devil's advocate consistently, putting his arms up next to his ears, not with my headphones on, to Sir Alex Ferguson after he scored. Having that rest in peace Fergie sign on an open top bus after the arch nemesis won the league. The Blue Moon had risen in Manchester as well. Unpopular opinion, but does Carlos Tevez make your list, Anthony?
He's high up on mine.
Oh, okay.
He's actually, you guys probably won't agree with this, but he's number 4 on my list. Only because that 07-08 team was my favourite ever Man United team.
Agreed.
Seeing him, Ronaldo, Rooney, all in their pomp, all in their heyday, tear up the Champions League, tear up the Premier League. I don't think you can beat that team. So yeah, Tevez 100% gets into my top 10 and he's in my top 5. I was gutted when he went to City because I thought Fergie, I think that was one of his biggest mistakes. Obviously, he made a few transfer mistakes during his time at United, but I think not signing him on a permanent deal when he was available for 35 million?
Yeah,
I think that was one of his biggest.
It was those agent fees that done him. He was like, I don't want to pay for the agent fees, and you're like,
yeah,
just do it. That's how football's changing now.
Yeah, because then we spent that money on Berbatov, didn't we? But Tevez, for me, him and Rooney, they just had that connection. They could both play as a number 9. They could both play as a number 10. They just had that connection along with Ronaldo, which I don't think you can beat that. So yeah, Tevez 100% is in my top 10 and he's in my top 5.
Zim, would you put him in your top 5 so we can save him for later?
Do you know, because of everything you mentioned with putting his hands in his ears and the RIP Fergie, all of that stuff, he wasn't in my list. But obviously, it was a mental list because as we established, we hadn't prepared.
We improvised.
Yeah. But I was thinking about keeping him out. But when I think about his pure ability and the joy he gave me, top 5. No, he'd be in my top 6, which is a weird like sort of top. But yeah, he'll be in and around there, not quite top 5 though.
So we can save him for a bit later on. But that was my unpopular opinion of this podcast, I would say. With Carlos Tevez, does that Manchester United team in 2008 win the Champions League? What do you think, Anthony?
Which one? The team in 2008?
Yeah. Do we win the Champions League without Carlos Tevez?
Well, that's a great question. Maybe we do, just because of how clinical Rooney and Ronaldo were. But I think Tevez just put that extra sprinkle dust, that magic to that team, along with Rooney, his partnership, his connection with like the dressing room with like Evra and Park. I just love the vibe of that team.
We had 2 pitbulls up front that season as well, which is unreal.
Their synergy, their aggression, their pressing before pressing was this like buzzword. Like they were on smoke when it came down to it.
Yeah. And they're the players who will do anything for the badge. They'll do anything for the other players around them. And I think we're missing that in the current Man United team.
Absolutely. You're seeing probably one with like Bruno Fernandes always playing out position, and then it just doesn't get it reciprocated across the team, which ain't great at all. But when you're thinking about it, Louis Saha was mostly injured that season as well. We had a young Danny Welbeck coming through in the academy and in the reserves as well. I heard a story recently, Anthony. I'm not sure if you heard it as well. I think it was Rio Ferdinand and Manu Vidic on Rio Ferdinand's channel saying when Danny Welbeck was training for the Champions League final against the first team, he scored a hat-trick against Vidic and Ferdinand.
Yeah, the day before the final. Yeah, I heard that the other day.
Day before the final. Insane. So it shows the quality levels that they had at Manchester United. But I'm of that opinion where I think if we don't have Carlos Tevez, it will just be a league-winning season. I don't think we make that extra push to the Champions League. Again, scoring one of the penalties in Moscow as well. And he was one of the main factors in getting Didier Drogba sent off in that final.
Yeah, that's true.
Well. That clutch player for Chelsea just wasn't there for the penalty, the 5th penalty. So it kind of worked in our favour, which is really well done. So not often you'd hear Man United fans giving Carlos Tevez his flowers, but he got his flowers for those 2 years for what he did for Manchester United as well. And I'll never forget that 5-2 comeback that Man United had against Tottenham at Old Trafford when he came on as a sub for Nani and turned the game on its head, which was crazy to see. That was one of the few times you actually saw Berbatov, Tevez, Rooney, and Ronaldo as a front four at Old Trafford, which was unreal to see. Unreal to hear about, actually. Back in the days, it was so good. Now we just have Wout Weghorst and T. Marcel to get gassed about. I'm not letting
Let's not talk about that.
I'm not letting
Let's not talk about that.
I get PTSD over Wout, this guy Wout, man. Just give it to Charlie McNeil. Get him back from his loan spell. Just bring him back.
Yeah, but Tevez didn't score pivotal goals in the lead up to the final in the Champions League.
That's what I was trying to think. Yeah, I don't think he did he?
Not in the final. It was more in terms of the fact that sometimes Rooney could be rested in the league. So it was sometimes like Tevez would play on his own and Ronaldo could sometimes get a rest in the FA Cup and the League Cup as well. So he was a proper squad player, but would always start every now and then. Kind of like you see with Heung-min Son. He'd always start the games, but if you got a lower, less opposition, you'd always have Tevez playing or Son playing as well, like you do kind of for Tottenham as well. And that allowed Ronaldo to kind of had he always had a winter break every now and then when he had the Christmas period coming up. He wouldn't play those games every 2-3 days. He'd play one game, have a rest, which worked really well.
That's really good depth. I think that's what frustrated Tevez because he knew he was the quality of like a player that should start.
Mm.
But yeah, I think when he did, I think there was the Roma match in the quarterfinal that we won 1-0. Yeah, he bagged in that to be fair. So he did score in one of the knockout rounds. But yeah, generally I don't really remember him scoring like winners or things like that. But no, he definitely played an important part. I won't take that away from him.
Nicely done. So Carlos Tevez will somewhat find his way into our list as well. But now we need to find a number 9 from our list of number 9s.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not sure where we can go with this one, Auntie. I'm probably going to ask for some help, but I'm thinking Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Does he make it into your list?
Yeah, he was 10th for mine actually.
Oh, okay. So you're happy to swap Sheringham and Zlatan around then for that free transfer?
Yeah, because you two went with that. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Yeah, Ibra for me, I think he was just one of those signings who you were buzzing over. Like when he joined, obviously he was at PSG, done his business in Italy before that with AC Milan, Inter, Juve. And it's just one of those signings where you think you need to see him in the Premier League. And for him to come to United, he scored 17 goals, Premier League goals in his first season. I know he was injured throughout the second season, but yeah, he's just a big player. Another one of those players who plays for the badge, gives their all when they're playing, and he's quality. Even at his age, what was he, 35, 36 when he was at United?
Yeah.
But he was still doing the business for us in that first season. So yeah, he makes the top 10 for me for his goals, his personality, and just what he brought to Man United.
Zlatan Ibrahimovic is probably one of the few signings I got gassed over, not only because it was a free transfer, but got me to postpone my holiday. Not postpone it, but delay what I was doing on my holiday to watch a pre-season game. Man United versus Galatasaray. I'm in Dubai. I've come back from my trip to Japan. Wink, wink, Zim, just in case that's one of your Southeast Asian countries. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see when this comes out. No comment. I'm in Dubai and I should be going out to dinner. And actually, like, you know what? Let's chill in the hotel, watch Man United versus Galatasaray. And he scores an overhead kick in his pre-season debut. Like, this is what we've got to expect from Zlatan on a free transfer. That's really good. And I'm of the opinion as well that post Alex Ferguson, Zlatan Ibrahimovic is our best signing as a striker for Manchester United, and I can't think of anyone better that we spent our money on. Maybe Martial, maybe Lukaku, but realistically, I think Zlatan Ibrahimovic for what he brought to us that season. Amazing striker. Zim, what do you have to kind of say about Zlatan Ibrahimovic?
He's the lion, man. Like, you know, they walk different to humans, isn't it? Like it's just different. And there's one thing to have that arrogance, that air of superiority about you, but when you can back it up, when you can walk the walk, like it's justified. Because I don't want to take it too much away from Man United, but like him going to Milan, who hadn't won a Scudetto in how many years, a decade or whatever it was. And, you know, he gets the youngsters over the line. It shows his mentality is as strong as his like his footballing attributes, you know, and physically as well. You know, he's obviously 6'5", you know, he's got like the strength of a lion, but then his ball control is there. And I think we haven't had like that sort of player to kind of make things calmer when the game was getting frantic. Like Lukaku, for instance, is a signing who came afterwards, post Sir Alex Ferguson, and I think he didn't have that calming aura. Yeah, he's younger, less experienced, but you know, the fact that Zlatan was able to do that whilst post peak is just, yeah, it says a lot about his character. So yeah, no, I'm happy for him to be there for sure. Top baller.
And I was at the League Cup final against Southampton, and he dragged us to that. He scored, 2 goals?
Scored a free kick as well.
Yeah, and one of them was in the final 5 minutes when Herrera clipped the ball to him, and he nodded the ball home. So yeah, he won us that, and obviously he won 3 trophies with us that season. So yeah, no, he's a baller.
Nicely done, especially with Zlatan Ibrahimovic, which is a timeless classic as a striker that we've seen in world football for so many years. And the fact that he started playing football in 1999, and now 2022 is still playing. 3-4 decades has gone through in terms of playing football. That's unreal to see. And yeah, definitely happy to talk about Zlatan Ibrahimovic for this one in our number 9, which is good to see. Right, there's a player that I've got on my list that I want to kind of know. Does he get into this list because of how many strikers we've got in, or are we gonna have to kind of put him to a side?
Intriguing.
So intriguing from my point of view is I have to kind of mention I have to mention Javier Hernandez. Does he get into the
Oh,
list?
okay. You went there.
He
No,
gets into mine.
not for me. Not for me.
Oh, this is
Go on,
tricky.
Anthony. Why did you say he gets into yours?
So he was ninth on my list. I just think he was a super sub who we could rely on. Like throughout all those title-winning seasons, he won 2 titles with us. Obviously, he was part of the Champions League runner-up side, and Fergie could trust him. Like if we needed a goal, he would get you those goals from the bench, and he never complained. He scored. How many goals would he score a season? Maybe like 15. Some of them, most of those appearances were coming from the bench, and he never complained. So I think those players are vital for a squad going for the Premier League. And he was just crucial for us. How much did we get him for? Was it like 7 mil?
7 million
And
from Guadalajara.
yeah, he came in, hit the ground running, and there was just never any complaints. So yeah, for me, he's in the top 10 just because of his goal output and what he done off the bench. I think that's vital when you're going to win a Premier League.
There was that game against Aston Villa, if you remember as well. I think he scored a hat trick after coming on at half time when we were playing that diamond formation against Aston Villa. And Van Persie, I think, crossed the ball into him once. He scored a header, did a long range free kick, and he headed on from it as well. It kind of goes to show the impact of substitutions over the season as well, how they can turn 0 points into 3, 0 points into 1. And having someone like Javier Hernandez, we'll always remember that backwards header against Stoke.
Yeah.
That debut goal of him kicking the ball in his face and then scoring against Chelsea in the
Was that Community Shield? Yeah.
Community Shield, yeah. Crazy title winning Chelsea as well. So it goes to show we could sleep it down. They could hold it down basically, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But there's so many of these strikers that we've got to put on this list, but we have to find a proper place for some of them, because I want to mention Berbatov, I want to mention Hernandez, I want to mention Dwight Yorke, and I want to mention Anthony Martial. But do we fit all of them in, or are they going to be around?
I've got someone else actually. And to be honest, respectfully, I'd put him behind Zlatan, right? But you know, some of the examples you gave of Javier Hernandez right now, they're a bit comical, you know, and I get that, you know, yeah, he was an impact sub and he did the business when he was called upon. But in terms of like that class, that calm in head, that, you know, just that quality, I prefer to put that ahead of someone like Hernandez personally.
Who's a bit chaotic.
Yeah. Well, as long as it comes with, you know, some success. And yeah, like one of my mentions is Henrik Larsson, and it's controversial because it was just on loan and it was a very short stint. But I think if we didn't have him that season, 2007, we wouldn't have gone on to win. Like Chelsea had won this the title 2 seasons before that, and we needed to claw it back because it was like, Arsenal won, then Chelsea won, and Chelsea won again. It's like, has Sir Alex lost it? Larsson comes, calms things down. We win a title, you know, from January onwards, and then we go on to do a three-peat, and then we go on to like develop one of our better teams. And I'm just like, he was one of the instigators for that. And it was his calming presence. Like, if we could have had him for longer, we would have. I know we didn't, but I just think I'd rather someone like that than, I know, Hernandez. We could have had someone else instead of Hernandez that would have gotten us over the line. That's my thinking personally, but I hear it.
So it's kind of to move forward with this. First of all, with Henrik Larsson, as you know, I love Henrik Larsson. And only a year before that as well, he was the guy who assisted both goals in the Champions League final for Barcelona to win their first Champions League after coming off the bench. The talk is of Iniesta coming off the bench, but Henrik Larsson was the one who changed the game. We've gone through this so many times. We've still got my video up there as well on our Instagram page of how much we gassed up Henrik Larsson and how Sean was upset of hating Henrik Larsson. And I love it as well because he killed it for Arsenal, which is great. I always love Henrik Larsson. They've got so much time for him. But I think with the impact that Hernandez had post-Ronaldo, I think that had more of an impact for me. And if you remember in that 2011 season, his debut season, Wayne Rooney was out of the team, not because of injury, but because of controversial off-field reasons as well. And that was more in terms of how he wanted a new contract, how he didn't feel appreciated. The fans were singing against him at certain games as well. And you had someone like Javier Hernandez kind of just chipping in with the goals week in, week out, just doing the job professionally as well. So with Henrik Larsson coming in for that 3-month loan spell, I'll love him, and I always love him for that. And I wish to God we had him as a striker when we signed someone like Louis Sahara. I would say it would have been him and Van Nistelrooy up front would have been like chef's kiss. It would have been so sick. But unfortunately, I think Henrik Larsson's a great honourable mention, but I've got to go for Javier Hernandez. I'm sticking with my gut on this, but it's all up to Anthony. Anthony's the one with the
Yeah, he
deciding
can
line.
veto it.
Pressure's on. Now, Larsson's on my reserve list. He didn't make my top 10. As you said, he was only at United for 3 months. I know he did make a big difference off the bench and stuff, but I don't think he impacted the rest of the team that much compared to someone like Hernandez. I was just looking at Hernandez's stats. In his first season, he scored 20 goals in 45
Yeah,
games.
that is big.
And he was just one of those hidden gems who no one knew about, but Fergie and his scouting team managed to pluck him out of Mexico. To score 20 goals in your first season coming from Mexico, I think he deserves a nod for that. So,
Fair
yeah,
enough.
Hernandez is in my top 10.
We need a scouting department like that now.
Yeah.
But let's not get into
we missed that as well. We're looking at some of these plays, and you're just kind of there like, oh, everyone knows about these plays, but because there's so many players outside of like Europe, like you had that Italian striker who's in Argentina. What's his name? Retugui. Forgot how you pronounce his name, but he played for Italy, made his debut, but he's Argentinian playing for Italy, and now his value's gone up like 50 million just by making his debut for Italy against England, which is crazy to see. Evan Ferguson will probably cost like 50 million if you need a new striker. Harry Kane, don't even want to go into it. Osimhen, astronomical figures. Napoli will want to make a profit if they want to sell him this season as well. So it goes to show we need to start scouting properly, finding some hidden gems here, there, and everywhere, which would be good. Right, Zim, I'll let you suggest someone for around number 7, number 6. Who have you got in mind that we may not have mentioned already? We could go back to the treble winning side of 1999. We could be going to somewhere in the mid-2000s where we kind of were lacking, or maybe got 1 or 2 golden oldies still to come. Who are you going to suggest for this one?
Yeah, so we're on 6 already, right? Yeah, that's so
No, 7, sorry. We've got
1, 7. Oh yeah, cool. Okay, no, that
Sheringham,
makes
Zlatan, Hernandez. There we go.
Yeah, that makes it better. So it's the other S in the treble winning season, and this is one of my favorite players of all time. Growing up, I used to love Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And yeah, obviously he became our manager like a couple of decades afterwards. But yeah, just the memories that I have, even like nostalgic memories from watching Premier League years and seeing him. He sort of always managed to find the bottom right corner in his finishes. And even if he was clean through on the right hand side, he would hit the bottom left corner. Like he was really good at finding corners. Like, so I thought he was a clinical striker. As Antti kind of alluded to, there's some players that we didn't get to see like live in action all the time because of our age. So I don't actually remember him being the super sub. Growing up, I just knew Solskjaer for being this goal scorer. Like when I used to see my cousins in Manchester and see like the stadium and, you know, like watch some of the matches, like he would just stand out to me. And so yeah, other than the treble winning match and him getting the winning goal, you know, scoring 4 goals at Nottingham Forest, like all types of goals, left foot, right foot, top corner, all of that stuff. And he did it with a smile in his face and a baby face. So I resonated with that a little bit. So yeah, no, Solskjaer would be my choice for number 7. What do you think?
I'm happy with him at number 7, but I'm kind of wondering, does that mean by the definition we put Dwight Yorke ahead of him, or we don't put Dwight Yorke in at all because of how Dwight Yorke's impact from that season in 98-99 came across as well? So Anthony, was Dwight Yorke on your list? And was Solskjaer on your list?
Yorke and Solskjaer were both on my list. So I had Yorke number 7 and Solskjaer number 8.
Oh, just we can
so
kind of go with
there
that.
Wasn't much in it, but yeah, I think Solskjaer has to be on the list. Obviously, he's another super sub like Hernandez, who never complained when he was on the bench. He never was really like a out and out starter, but he used to score so many goals, and he won 6 titles, I think it was.
Yeah.
So, and obviously went on to managers. He's a club legend, and obviously that Champions League goal, he should be in the list just for that alone. So
definitely,
yeah, he's got to be in the top 10.
And we've only got a Solskjaer as well. The fact that he stayed at the club until around 2006, 2007, because he had so many injuries to kind of deal with as well. It shows that persistence of how well he was still remembered and appreciated at the club, even though he wasn't really playing in the side for a good number of years as well. Because even with me, I'd have him on like FIFA, like 04, 05, and on PES, but you'd never see him in real life. You had like Alan Smith, Louis Saha, Wayne Rooney, Van Nistelrooy. Solskjaer would never be seen on the pitch because he was always recovering from an injury. And then one random day, in 2007 after Man United had won the league. Who's there leading out the team? It's Gabriel Heinze. And then who's at the back of the list? You've got Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in that starting lineup at Stamford Bridge, which is crazy. And you're just like, he's finally here. It's great to see Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And he had a couple more games in that 2006-2007 season as well, which is great to see. And it was really nice to see him kind of back in that first team environment, flourishing with this new young team of Ronaldo and Rooney, Louis Sahar as well in the attack. Ji-Sung Park as well, of course, which was great to see. But no, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I'm really happy with that as that choice for number 7. So does that mean I'm happy to put Dwight Yorke number 6? There's no two ways about it. Dwight Yorke was an impact signing. When you wanted someone who you wanted to kind of grasp the title back from Arsenal straight away, who did you need? Someone like Dwight Yorke to come in, score the goals that he did, provide the amazing combination with Andy Cole, who I'm pretty sure we were all going to be talking about him later on as well. But Anthony, are we happy with having Dwight Yorke one up from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer because of his impact that he had in the season?
100%. Yeah, another one who was part of that treble winning side, and obviously he done the business at Villa, and then he came to United, and he done just as well at United. He's only at us for 4 seasons, but during those 4 seasons, he made such an impact. So, yeah, he has to be in the list. And then I've got Cole just one ahead of Yorke. So, yeah, they're both in.
Oh, did he win the three-peat as well, Dwight Yorke? The original three-peat?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I was just thinking about that as well. So you got Dwight Yorke that's done that. Solskjaer was injured for that. Teddy Sheringham left after that. Andy Cole and Dwight Yorke were there as well in that respect. So just so we can clarify on our list, we've got Teddy Sheringham at 10, we've got Zlatan Ibrahimovic at 9, Javier Hernandez at 8, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at 7, Dwight Yorke at 6. Now we've got, we've got 5 more people left to go, which would be crazy. But I'm thinking now, Andy Cole, I want him higher on my list than 5. I think he deserves a bit more of that respect.
Definitely.
Now we've just got to figure out who we've kind of got left. So let me just roll out a few. We've got Ruud Van Nistelrooy, we've got Robin van Persie, Eric Cantona, Andy Cole, and Wayne Rooney. To an extent. I'm not considering Anthony Martial. He would have been on my maybe list because he went left wing, striker, left wing. He's been all over the place. I won't be considering Marcus Rashford number 10 because he's also kind of someone that's kind of been there and done that at different positions as well, but not really held down that number 9 position, if we're being honest about it as well. So, because the current players we're kind of talking about, not because they're on bad form at the moment, at the time of speaking, it's nothing to do like that, but when you're thinking about it, when Rashford broke onto the scene for Manchester United, he came on as a striker with Van Gaal. Then you had a season of Zlatan, you had a season of Lukaku, then you had Martial going back into number 9, and then just rotated back to Rashford every now and then. And then Ten Hag brings him back in as a 9, sometimes as a winger. The whole reason we got Weghorst in as a winger, as a loan signing, is because Rashford thrives off the left. So I won't consider Marcus Rashford as a number 9. Are we missing any more from the 5 that I just kind of mentioned? Rooney, Van Persie, Cantona, Andy Cole, Van Nistelrooy. Who can we?
No, that's my top 5, I think. Oh, Tevez. You're going to put Tevez back in somewhere, aren't you?
Yes, we are. Now we've got to figure out. Do we have to?
I think we have to shift. I think we have to shift someone behind.
Do we have to get rid of someone for the sake of it?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Start from the back, maybe.
Yeah, because Berbatov's not making this list. This is what I'm saying. So
my reserve list was Berbatov, Larson, Sheringham, and then I just thought about Lukaku, Cavani, Martial, but they were nowhere near
it. For good reason as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate though. Post Sir Alex though, like those signings probably could have been better. But anyway, that's a whole nother.
Lukaku scored 26 goals in his first season for Man United as well. It's just the fact that he never had the longevity to continue doing it under different managers.
But we've established it wasn't just about longevity because Sheringham wasn't there for that long, and it's just I think the success needs to accompany the goals as well.
I agree.
We just didn't have that. Yeah.
It's the fact you're looking at Lukaku and you're thinking in that season when we had Chelsea in the FA Cup final, he came off the bench. Like it was Lingard, Sanchez, and Rashford as our front three against Chelsea. Yeah. It's the most boring FA Cup final. We lost it, and he came on in like 18 minutes with Anthony Martial. Yeah. So it goes to show we spent 75 million on a player. He can't even turn up for us in an FA Cup final by starting for us. So it goes to show that with the longevity argument that we had, fair enough. But even when you got the short-term players like Teddy Sheringham or Dwight Yorke, they came in with a straight impact and they won us trophies, which is great. So I definitely get your point of view there, Zim. Definitely understandable. Right, Carlos Tevez has to make this list as well. I probably forgot about him. I should have written him down. It doesn't look right without Teddy Sheringham. That's the thing. It
So
doesn't look right.
Hernandez has to
Should
go.
we take out Hernandez then? Because
Hernandez,
I had Sheringham before, and
Yeah,
then I scrubbed him out and put Hernandez. But if you two want Sheringham over Hernandez, I'm fine with that.
yeah, I'll
yeah.
go
We're
for
not
that.
getting rid of Zlatan by any means necessary.
No.
So do we put Tevez at 8? So we've got Sheringham, Zlatan, Tevez, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Dwight Yorke, or do we go Sheringham, Zlatan, then just get rid of Hernandez, and then Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Yorke, then Tevez?
Well, Tevez was fourth for mine, but I was biased towards him, so you two can decide.
Tevez at 6. I'm going for Tevez at 6.
To 6. Yeah, you can do that.
That's fine. The internet will hate us, but we
so
don't
where's
care.
Yorke? Where's Yorke?
Yorke is 7. So we've got Sheringham 10, Zlatan 9, Ollie at 8, Yorke 7, Tevez at 6.
Put Yorke above Tevez. Put Yorke above Tevez. I was saying a treble, innit? I was saying a treble. You know, a treble. He scored 20 goals in the 98-99 season. I think he might have got like 20 assists or something. He got a good amount of assists in that season. It was unreal. But I think it's slept upon because I think assists weren't really, I don't know, they weren't really respected in the same way they are now with the GA and all of that stuff in the modern era. But no, Yorke, very, very slept on for that season. And it was a pivotal part.
Especially in that comeback against Juventus as well in 1999. That iconic commentary as well, which is great to see.
Everything about it, yeah.
That dummy at Barcelona as well, exactly. That's another thing. Cole and Yorke, just an iconic partnership. But for 5, I'm gonna. It may not come as a shock to you, but I don't want Andy Cole at 5. I want him a bit higher up, and for the one who I want at number 5, I'm gonna go for Robin van Persie at number 5. Because when you're thinking about Robin van Persie, that first season was the definition of one season wonder. It was more than wonderful because he won us the league. And that left foot was the most precious left foot in the whole of Manchester that season from any kind of job description, because he was so on it every single game. If he wasn't scoring, he was assisting. He was taking our corners, our free kicks. He was the one that was bringing the composure and the calmness to the team as well. And whenever you see kind of the Harry Kane rumours for Man United, you'd see the whole, he could have the RVP impact. And with Robin van Persie, he had the definition of an impact with what he did coming into that side with Manchester United, missing out on goal difference the season before in the Premier League. Antti, what do you kind of remember most of all from that first season of Robin van Persie, from your point of view as well? Were you a bit skeptical with the signing? £24 million, because it's considered quite a lot for a 28-year-old, from Arsenal.
Was he 28, 29? No, I loved the signing. And that first presser when he was going on about how the little kid inside of him wanted to join United, winding up all the Arsenal fans. I loved it. And I think he won that league for us single-handedly. Like, without him, we would have got nowhere near the league. So he was actually 3rd on my list just for that one season. And I know, obviously, it's recency bias, but I just loved him during that season. 30 goals in 48 games during his first season at the club. I know he tailed off pretty quickly, but that was because Fergie left and he played in a poor Moyes side. And then that first season,
top scorer in the Moyes side as well.
And
everyone was poor in that side as well.
Yeah, it's true. And then that first season under Van Gaal, but yeah, he was 3rd on my list. He's definitely in my top 5, just because he won us that title, single-handedly, I think.
Zim, RVP or Ruud Van Nistelrooy? Who's higher on your makeshift list, on your average list?
So I remember I told you about like having an affinity towards like someone, how they play, and then one who's just outright just the better player or better striker. Van Persie, I have more of an affinity towards. I feel like although they sort of won the same things in that they didn't win a Champions League for us. It was limited to the league, which is obviously incredible. I think we were afraid of like the trajectory of City and the fact that we could just get it back. And as you said, a one season wonder. Like he came to do his job and he did it. Like that's I have Van Persie higher in my heart, but then for this list, I wouldn't mind like Ruud just being there because he was an absolute gunman. And when like if we're talking about overall play, I would choose Van Persie. But this is about greatest striker, so I'm happy to have Ruud ahead. And what you mentioned about Harry Kane as well was interesting because there's a lot of housery with the fact that when you type in Van Persie on Google, it will still say number 20 for Man United. It will have pictures of him at Man United instead of Arsenal. That is amazing, bro.
Yeah.
Like that's taking a mick. So when I think about Kane, right, if he was to come to United and help us win the league or whatever, Tottenham legend, yeah. But
All-time goal scorer for Tottenham as well.
Yeah, history will remember him in a Man United shirt as
Yeah, it's mad.
number 9 or whatever it will be. But Marshall might still be there. But like, yeah, that will be. I love that, and I feel like, yeah, Ruud can't replicate that because we were winning. Like we weren't trying to really catch up with anyone. This was pre-Invincibles. This was just routine for Ruud. Like he was just a gunman.
Yeah.
So I'm talking myself into thinking that Van Persie should be higher than Ruud. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'd actually choose Van Persie one higher than Ruud, to be honest.
Ooh.
That's just me, yeah. I talked myself into it.
I mean, you did as well. It's crazy because it's with Ruud Van Nistelrooy as well. Like you said, he also had to deal with the invincible season at the same time and the Chelsea dominance that came into effect as well. He was still scoring goals in those seasons at the same time. But with Ruud Van Nistelrooy, you would remember the type of goal that he would score within the penalty area, left foot, right foot, instinctive poachers finishes. Everyone will remember that Fulham goal running from the halfway line. He has described it recently as his favourite ever goal. For Manchester United with Gary Neville as well on the overlap. So I'm really happy with what we've got going on here, but I'm still leaning towards Van Persie being below Ruud Van Nistelrooy because of Ruud Van Nistelrooy's, mostly because of him trying to get us back into European dominance because of that amazing 2003 season of scoring in, I think, every Champions League game that he played in that season, breaking the record. So Anthony A, obviously you got to decide and vote. I'm going to leave your name on the tagline when you post this on social media because then if they need anyone to argue at, they can argue at you. So who's going number 5 on our list? Are we going to go for Ruud Van Nistelrooy or are we going to go for Robin Van Persie?
Well, Van Persie was 3rd on my list and Van Nistelrooy was higher. So I'm going to say Van Persie. We'll go with Van Persie now.
Going RVP number 5. And with Robin Van Persie as well, he would never score the same type of goal.
Yeah.
That's what I loved about him. Volleys, diving headers, free kicks, overhead kicks. You're looking at someone who could do everything as a striker from whatever position as a striker as well. He had the whippage. He could do the pinpoint accuracy passing as well. His whippage was crazy. Do you remember that goal against, who was it against? Was it against Newcastle or against Wigan when he just comes out the edge of the box, Arjen Robben style?
Yeah.
Whips it top left. I'm just like, this is insane. That's what he had with Robin Van Persie. And I just remember
that Villa goal as well. The Rooney ball over the top and then the volley. That just...
Who doesn't remember that? Yeah, pretty much won the league. So
that's probably the most iconic goal to ever win.
And the fact that he came with the number 20. Did he score 20 goals? I don't remember how many goals he scored.
No, it was our 20th title.
It was 20th title, so that was the significance of it. But yeah, it was like written in the stars, man. It's just crazy.
Yeah, crazy player Robin Van Persie definitely was. And Arsenal fans will never forgive him for that. Even though he goes, I enjoyed my time at Arsenal. Arsenal fans don't like him anymore, and we love it.
No, he always talks about Man United. He's a United fan now over Arsenal.
Come on,
you gotta love that.
Whenever there's BC Sport punditry that needs to be done for Manchester United, it's Robin Van Persie turning up. It's not Arsenal. It's not against the Emirates anytime soon.
That's how you know he's a United legend.
He's welcomed at Old Trafford anytime. Robin Van Persie. Nah, we love to see it.
Just on that, just a quick caveat. Don't get too sidetracked. If Ronaldo was like to be brought back BT. Would it be cool for him to speak on United, or is he's more of a Real Madrid legend?
He can speak for both. If he's in England, he'd speak for Man United, of course.
You think he can be a legend of 2 clubs?
Of course you can.
Yeah, I think you can. Yeah.
So you wouldn't. Okay, so you wouldn't say Van Persie's a legend of Arsenal at all, then?
No.
Why not? He won
I just think he sport
FA Cup, first season.
Yeah, those quotes when he joined us. I just think
the little boy inside
affinity. Yeah. Arsenal fans aren't having him anymore.
I'm trying to think. Are there other Man United players that were legends at 2 clubs? That's got me another caveat now as well.
Legend of 2 clubs. It's a bit like.
I mean, Zlatan obviously has been legends at multiple clubs, so he doesn't really count. When you think of Zlatan Ibrahimovic, you could think of any different club and not be wrong. You could think of PSG, AC Milan, Inter Milan, Man United for an extent as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's harder for it to be in the same country. But it's, I mean, with Zlatan, it probably is.
Andy Cole, maybe? Newcastle and Man United?
I don't know about Newcastle.
I'm not sure.
No. I think he's just a United legend.
Yeah. Definitely not Man City legend for what he's done for Man City.
He's a United ambassador as well, so
You're seeing him in Singapore with Dwight Yorke. I'm loving that
yeah,
combination.
exactly.
Elite strike partnership. Right. So Robert Van Persie's at number 5. I'm very happy to have Andy Cole at number 4, personally. So I'm quite happy with what he's done as a Man United player. For him having that combination of Cantona up front as well. I think he's replacing Mark Hughes into the Manchester United side when he first joined him as well. And the fact that he rejected staying at Newcastle, also could have been playing for Arsenal as well. I think we see it a lot more this season. I've certainly spoken a lot more about Andy Cole this season more than I ever have, because first of all, everyone, when they talk about goal scoring records, whenever you look at the goal scoring records in the Premier League, his name is always there. Andy Cole, 187 goals, no penalties for any of his teams. So it goes to show how well he was as a striker. You're seeing that clip on Filthy Fellas where I forgot his name. I think his name's like PK Humble. Danny showed me this clip. He's like, oh yeah, PK Humble talking to Andy Cole. He's like, oh, 1-on-1 should be easy. You got a 70-30 chance. And Andy Cole's like, are you telling me? So that's Andy Cole like he's speaking to as well. I'm just like, you're a non-league footballer talking to Andy Cole, one of the greatest footballers that England's ever produced. One of the best finishers I've ever seen in my life. It's insane. But Andy Cole, definitely for me, top 4, I would say, because I know we've got 3 others to talk about. But for the respect that we can give him for the 99 treble season as well, being part of the three-peat before leaving for, I think, Blackburn Rovers or Manchester City maybe, or Fulham. I forgot which team he went to as well. But Andy Cole is definitely in that top 4 for me, and is that 4 for me. Zim, what do you think about Andy Cole?
I had him at number 2, actually. Yeah, really high. And yeah, it's because I always like your stats to be backed up by trophies and consistency.
Sorry, Harry Kane.
Come to United. And the biggest of honors as well. The treble, like the best thing our club has done in its history, the best any club has ever done, certainly in the top 5 or 6 leagues or whatever. So being a pivotal part of that, along with, as you mentioned, not taking penalties. I don't want to take that away from any other player, to be honest, but it's just, that you're guaranteed a goal without having a penalty in a match with him. Basically, like his record is without penalties, just put it that way. And yeah, I think he scored all types of goals, lobs. Like I remember like the lobs against Spurs, like the volleys and stuff like that. Like he had pace going behind, like pretty much a complete striker. And I don't think his praises get sung enough. And I think so. What I put him that high because the trophies and the goal ratio, which I don't think many others on the list could kind of argue against. So
how are we kind of look? Are we going for Ruud Van Nistelrooy 4 and then Andy Cole 3 or 2 maybe? What are we thinking, Anthony?
Van Nistelrooy is actually much higher on my list. I had Cole at number 6, but again, I've got to admit it's recency bias. I didn't really remember Cole at United in his pomp, but obviously I know, judging by like previous videos and watching Premier League years, that he was obviously a class striker, one of the treble. So I don't mind him being in the top 5, but Van Nistelrooy for me is higher. Claim to fame, I actually played at Old Trafford in a media match, and Andy Cole was my manager. So,
no way.
Yeah, he was my manager. I've got a picture as well.
So he had it ready. He had it ready.
Yeah,
he was ready for this one. Oh my days.
So Andy Cole was my manager, and he's a great guy as well. So yeah, he was 6th in mine. Van Nistelrooy is a bit higher, but I'm happy to have him in the top 4 if you guys think he should be in there.
Yeah. I'm happy for him for being in my top 4. I needed it in my top 4, and you can then send him this podcast, Anthony, and be like, "Yeah, I had him 6, but the boys put him a bit higher." So, just in case we have another charity game coming or another media game coming, it needs to be done. That's crazy. What was he like as a person then when you met him?
He was actually quite reserved. But yeah, we've basically just played the game between Cole's team and Pallister's team. So Gary Pallister was the other manager.
Yeah.
I think Quinton Fortune was another coach as well. So yeah, it was good fun. But that pitch is big, man. Like, I've also played at Stamford Bridge, and Stamford Bridge is tiny compared to Old Trafford. I done one run and I was knackered. So fair play to those wingers that you play at Old Trafford.
Now Antonio Valencia is just looking like a light jog when you're going through, when you're seeing him going up and down that touchline season after season. It's crazy. That's why it was so hench, Antonio Valencia, just doing laps of the entire pitch is insane. But yeah, and Andy Cole is at 4. Right, now we've got 3 to kind of go through. We've got Ruud Van Nistelrooy, we've got Eric Cantona, and we've got Wayne Rooney. So, Anthony, you know what? I'll let you take away. Who do you think should go for number 3 on this position, and why?
So for me, only because, as I mentioned before, recency bias and not seeing him in his heyday, Cantona would be 3rd for me. Just because Rooney and Van Nistelrooy have got a special place in my heart, to be honest. Like, what they've done week in, week out, every Saturday, you knew they would score. So, yeah, Cantona was number 3 for me. Obviously, he had such a big say in Man United. He set up that treble-winning team. Obviously, he left just before, but he played a big role in that. It was a shame when he retired, just out of the blue. What was he, 29? I think he was.
29, 30.
He hadn't even really hit his peak yet, and obviously he carried that United team before the treble-winning team. But just because I didn't see him week in, week out, he goes a bit lower for me, behind Rooney and Van Nistelrooy.
Okay, Zim, how about you? What's your kind of number 3? Are you going for more of a Van Nistelrooy or Rooney or a Cantona?
King Cantona. No, I echo what Anthony said. No, he was number 3 for me as well. I think, yeah, in terms of, I mentioned Andy Cole was number 2, so yeah, it's because of that. But I think I don't want the fact that I didn't see him as much to kind of hinder his position. I'm aware that, you know, every season that he had a significant amount of games in, we won the league, and he has a unique position of, you know, having a legacy like role, like as a United striker, because we hadn't won the league for so many years, decades, and he came and was the pivotal factor for us getting back to, you know, being the big United and going on to do like unprecedented things. So that's something that it can be replicated, but I mentioned how much, you know, admiration I have for Cole being pivotal for the 99 treble and a three-peat. That's something that, you know, you can match, because if you win a three-peat or if you win a treble, then yeah, you've equaled that. It's not easy to do, but you've equaled that. Whereas a club who, you know, are a giant, a massive establishment in a certain country that haven't won for ages, are a seaplane giant, and you wake them up, that comes few and far between. You can't just do that on a given year. Like Man United have to, like, we haven't won for 10 seasons, and it was even longer since we'd won before that. So it's what he did was that monumental. I'm sort of talking him up and up and up, but I think in terms of pure striking, he wasn't an out and out goal scorer like that. He did much more than just goal scoring, but I think for pure goal scoring, he didn't mix it up with the 2 others, which will probably be higher on the list for me. So that's the main reason why.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, for this one, I'll obviously have to concede that obviously I'm outvoted with this one, but Cantona was higher on my ad-lib list as well. I would say he was at number 2 for me because of how he made Manchester United a dominant side and how he made Sir Alex Ferguson, in essence, really going from Alex Ferguson to Sir Alex Ferguson. The fact that we were the dominant side in the inaugural Premier League, the first Premier League, after signing him from Leeds for £1.2 million. We stole him from our bitter Yorkshire rivals, which was great to see. Obviously, we're from Lancashire and Manchester, going from Yorkshire to Leeds. But the fact that Eric Cantona, first of all, just came in and he was like, yeah, I am the guy. He didn't really kick it off in France with Marseille as much as he hoped, and that's why he came over to England. And the fact that there weren't many foreigners at the beginning of the Premier League that actually came in to actually have the impact that Eric Cantona had consistently. We had a few over the years. Tony Yeboah was one of them. You had David Ginola, of course, at Newcastle and Tottenham, but Eric Cantona was the face of the Premier League during the 90s, which goes to show how dominant he was as a player, as a force, and as an attacker for Manchester United as well. And obviously, who can, even when you're looking back on your Premier League years and your YouTube clips as well, when you've got time, if you've got nothing to watch online, just type in Eric Cantona on YouTube, Manchester United. You'll see him score a last-minute volley against Liverpool at the old Wembley to win the FA Cup. You'll see him make one of the most outsane outside the boot passes to Dennis Irwin to score a goal, which he said was one of his most favourite moments as well as a player for Manchester United. Always trusting your teammates, and has now gone on to become an actor, a political activist, and someone who you see every now and then just pop up out of nowhere with some amazing quotations. And for someone like Anthony working in the media, I'm pretty sure you love that, don't you, Anthony?
Oh yeah, he sells back pages. So yeah, even at this age, when did he retire? Like when did he retire?
99 maybe.
I know it's probably before that, 98. So yeah.
Yeah.
And he's still making back pages and giving people quotes and stuff. Yeah, I think he wanted to become United's director of football at one stage as well, which would have been good fun. But yeah, Cantona's a legend.
King Cantona, innit? Like,
wish we had the collars today, so we could all pop our colours up in tribute of Eric Cantona, but not the one. But no, he was at 2 on my list, but I'll obviously concede to him being number 3 if you're happy with that. The both of you, Anthony and Zim, you're happy with him at number 3?
Yeah.
I'm happy with that.
Nicely done. Number 2 between Ruud Van Nistelrooy and Wayne Rooney. I'm just gonna go out and say Wayne Rooney has to be number 1 for me without a shadow of a doubt. Coming in as the boy wonder, number 9 striker, to then leaving as a midfield maestro, kind of popping in every now and then and still becoming the all-time greatest Manchester United goal scorer. Ruud Van Nistelrooy at number 2 for the big impact he had at Manchester United, coming in after signing a year before and then having his deal postponed for a whole year because of his injury as well, failing a medical, which was the case. So, Anthony, let's hear a couple of your main kind of memories of Ruud Van Nistelrooy. Like you said, it's not so much recency bias, but someone who you remember watching growing up and appreciating during your school days and stuff. What's kind of your kind of favorite memories of Ruud Van Nistelrooy? And Zim, obviously, we'll get to you
with
that as well.
This may shock you guys, but actually Van Nistelrooy was number 1 on my list.
Oh,
no, I'm not surprised though, because you said he was much higher on your list.
You said much higher, so you gave really good hints there. I should have picked up.
Because with Van Nistelrooy, you know these strikers these days, they need 3 or 4 chances. Van Nistelrooy, 1 chance, 1 goal. He didn't mess about. He was a deadly finisher. Bang. In my eyes, he was our best ever striker.
Lethal.
Got 95 goals in 150 league games for us. Yeah. He was unreal. And I remember just like on the playground, I was obviously going to school with like loads of Chelsea and Arsenal fans. And to have Van Nistelrooy in your corner during those days, because you knew you'd guarantee you every weekend he would score. Yeah. And he even said, I think he was on Rio's podcast, he said if he didn't score, Van Nistelrooy would be upset. Even if they won 3-0, he'd be upset because he was an elite striker. And obviously Rooney was good. I'll give him his credit. He led us to leagues. He could play as a number 9 or number 10. But Van Nistelrooy as a striker, I just loved him. I absolutely loved him. Obviously, we had to wait a year for him, which was disappointing. But even coming back from that knee injury, after he'd done his cruciate ligament when he was just about to join United, he was still class in those. I think he had 4 good seasons for us, and one of them he was injured for a bit of it. But he scored 23 goals, 25 goals, 20 goals, 21 goals just in the league. So for me, he was number 1.
What Man United could do to have a striker like that in the Premier League over the last 4 or 5 years, that we missed that as well. Don't have a striker who's lethal in the box, who can gobble up chances in a way that can take the chances that need to be taken. And that's what happens now in the Premier League as well. You're seeing someone like Haaland scores continuous amount of goals, which is amazing, fantastic to see. But when you're seeing someone like Vlahovic have a purple patch, everyone's like, oh yeah, could he catch him? No. Darwin Núñez, could he catch him? No, they get shifted out to being a winger. And it goes to show that there's so many strikers out there that need to have these kind of chances. Harry Kane's a fantastic example of hard work and dedication, of being a kind of squad player, mid player at Spurs, to being the main man. And Haaland is doing such amazing work. And that's what competition does in the Premier League. The Henry, the Van Nistelrooy, the Michael Owen competition they had for a season or two before Owen left was really quite fascinating, really, with how many they would score over the season as well. Sometimes Henry would beat Van Nistelrooy, sometimes Van Nistelrooy would beat Henry. Crazy to see how we had that in the early 2000s in England in the Premier League as well. Zim, how about you? Any kind of fond memories you have of Ruud Van Nistelrooy, despite the Arsenal fight that you've spoken about previously as well, and how you wanted to fight Arsenal players after that game?
That's a really good memory of yours. Yeah, no, that's obviously not a fun memory. The Fulham goal is definitely iconic because I love Van Nistelrooy, so like especially playing with him in FIFA and just with Rooney behind him, just that.
Did you ever do your hair like him?
No, I didn't.
I did.
I didn't have that much hair back then. No, but no, the reason why I was excited by that goal in particular is because my style of play, I was a bit of a dribbler, and yeah, I could finish, but like I wasn't so much a potent finisher in the way that Ruud was. And he used to get a bit of stick for never scoring outside of the box. And I
Mm.
thought, like, this is a player that I love. Like, I just want him to shut people up. And then when he did that, I was like, where did it come from? Because he wasn't known for having pace, you know, but he just, sometimes like as a dribbler, like I sort of compare it to like a biting point. When you're driving, you're not gonna stall when the pedals like pushed a certain amount, right?
Yeah.
And it's just right. So with like dribbling past the defender, you know that if you shimmy your body enough with enough weight, they will move to a certain amount, like to the right or left, and then you can go on further. And like as he was going past every defender in the Fulham team, I was like, yes, yes. Oh, there we go. I was pretending like I was him, so I really, really resonate with that goal. So yeah, that's number one. The reason why I don't have him as number one on the list is purely because, well, we'll get on to Rooney, but yeah, his goal scoring didn't necessarily amount to us as a team being that much better. Like him leaving and obviously Saha coming in and just players who were able to bring others into the game more, resulted in us winning the Champions League and multiple trophies in a season. So that's the only thing that's the only slight I have against him. But in terms of an out and out, just get your goal. If you want someone to get your goal, get Ruud. That's what it is. So yeah, nothing but good stuff to say about him.
My favorite memory was him against Juventus in the Champions League. I don't know if you remember that goal, Anthony, when he was basically it's like a cross into the box or something and just stuck his leg out. It was like the furthest I've ever seen Ruud Van Nistelrooy stretch. I'm just like, Ruud can stretch that far? And he did. And it was crazy to see. And there's an iconic picture, I'll send it to you on the group chat later, where he just had his leg up and he goes off celebrating. I think he's wheeling his shirt around at Old Trafford. I'm just like, oh, this is crazy. Stretford then against then finalists, Juventus, against Gianluigi Buffon, who then returned to save a couple penalties in the Champions League final later that season as well. But with Ruud Van Nistelrooy, I'll happily have him at number 2. Fantastic striker I had in mind as well. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk about strikers in this podcast as well, the fact that you can see so much in his movement that he had in his game, and it wasn't always the most, like Zim said, the most amount of body weight he would move, but sometimes he would do it just to like defer a defender away to allow him to actually post up, basically get a tap in, get a little header, get a little ricochet in, and he'll get it in. And that's what Ruud Van Nistelrooy would bring you in the team, which was amazing to see. But Anthony, are you going to agree with us and have Ruud Van Nistelrooy at number 2, or are we going to?
Yeah, you convinced me. It was a toss up between Van Nistelrooy and Rooney, but yeah, I can have him as number 2. I just think those days between Arsenal and United, they were the best days of the Premier League, I think.
Yeah.
Even I remember a little thing like the night videos, they were epic. Like the Arsenal-Man United rivalry with the
cage
Joggo
advert.
Bonita. Yeah, the cage one. And there was another one where they were like hiding in a house and they would go like boo and stuff. I don't know if you remember that.
Going Ole.
Yeah, Henry, Van Nistelrooy.
Do you think that's partially because of the stage that we were at in life? Like, it's a bit of nostalgia because we were like quite young when that was happening. Whereas, like, let's say people born in 2000, they might say, I mean, I don't even know what adverts are out right now, but they might think,
it's true.
Like
Aguero, this, that. Yeah.
Like, you know, the Nike adverts come out more or less during the World Cup and the Euros, right? With the Nike ones that back then, it'd be like every other season because of the Premier League and La Liga being so hot. And because you had so many of these players like Luis Figo, you had Zidane, you had Ronaldo, the marketing people from these brands just took it for a spin. And that's what fans loved and they appreciated it. You had that Pepsi advert, David Beckham taking a free kick with Pepsi with ponchos and something. It's insane. You had the stadium one with Portugal and Brazil as well. It was crazy. You had the Mambo number 5 one, I think, with another one as well, which is insane. So in terms of nostalgia, definitely brings back the nostalgia. But when you're like you saw at the World Cup this year, you had the time travel one, right? With Mbappe against Ronaldinho and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
It was great. It was great to watch. It didn't really click because you could tell they're wearing their VFX screens and everything as well. And you're just kind of there like, oh, yeah, it's cool. But yeah. Then you had the Neymar one back in like 2014 when the kids are playing. It's like, oh, I'm Neymar. I'm Ronaldo. And then Neymar would pass it back. It's like, Neymar would never do that. And you're like,
yeah, it's true. I also think it's because, like, nowadays you see so much of footballers on Instagram and stuff, on Twitter. They're advertising everything. Whereas back then, you wouldn't see Van Nistelrooy unless he was on the football pitch.
That's it.
You wouldn't see Henry. Now they're just everywhere. So
100%.
I think just seeing those clips back then, because you wouldn't see them outside of a football pitch. So yeah, they were just unreal. I think.
Like, you never see Van Nistelrooy dancing with his teammates or his players, like he was for PSV, or Henry wearing a crown like he did on CBS the other day. King Henry, the coronation, and him getting starstruck by Paolo Maldini. But now you see it everywhere because it's always in TV and stuff.
CBS is funny though. I'll give them that. But in terms of the adverts, right? I think now the better adverts are the ones which are not like. They're not animated, or they're like, for instance, the Messi one where he had different generations himself, and I think it was advertising the boot just before the World Cup. And yeah, they were all on the same pitch, sort of like the Spider-Man meme where they're all pointing at each other. That's good, and that's not that wasn't like a motion advert. I think it was just a photo or something like that. Like, that's more iconic, and obviously him versus Ronaldo playing chess with the Louis Vuitton sort of thing, iconic. Whereas like the actual motion adverts, like they don't hit the same as they did back in the day. So you're probably being even a bit generous by saying it wasn't bad. Like I think they don't slap at all, to be honest.
You had the Brazil one, remember, when you had the Nike one and that was animated, or someone like David Luiz, Tim Howard. You had a couple of other players in there, and you're like, it's just forgettable because it's animated in a way. So yeah, I can kind of get it from that point of view as well. But there was one player who we all saw quite a lot of in marketing, in media, on the back pages, on the front pages. Anthony, you would imagine seeing a lot of Wayne Rooney everywhere when he was coming through at Manchester United, and I think we're going to be unanimous in crowning him the best Manchester United striker in the Premier League era. We're all kind of going to agree with that as well, which is great. But with Wayne Rooney, being on every single FIFA was a big thing, a very, very big thing. Because when you see someone like Jamie Redknapp say, Erling Haaland is the first Premier League superstar that they've ever had. I mean, hello, Wayne Rooney was on every single FIFA. He was the golden boy of England for a good number of years, even before he joined Manchester United. When he went to that European Championship 2004, he slapped up Lilian Thuram. He would... I think 360 Zidane, which was insane. And you're like, hold on, this is a kid versus Zidane. And you're like, this is insane. We lost the game, but the whole world took notice of Wayne Rooney that night. Kind of like when Gareth Bale made everyone notice him against Inter Milan when they lost. Insane. But with Wayne Rooney, what he did and what Sir Alex Ferguson did to spend that £27 million to sign him that summer. Glad he didn't go to Newcastle. Glad he came to Manchester United. That debut against Fenerbahce. That's in my heart. That's one of those that will be in my heart for scoring 3 amazing goals, one better than the other. A free kick on his debut, a ripped shirt as well. I don't know why he had a ripped shirt when he walked out. Insane to see. And then I still remember him giving the ball away for their second goal, Fenerbahce's second goal. The game finished like 6-2. And it was insane. And you're like, if this is what we've got with Wayne Rooney to come, I'm all for it. And all Man United fans are all for it. He had his ups, he had his downs, but he had his time in the sun more times than not at Manchester United. But unfortunately, for sometimes, he was a supporting member in that team. But when he was the main man at Manchester United, he took it with both hands, especially in that 2009, 2010 season. Do you remember that period when all he was doing was scoring headers against AC Milan, headers in the Premier League? Unreal to see. And you're just like, this is the number one striker in the country. And now he's added headers to his game.
Yeah, that was after Tevez and Ronaldo left, didn't it? And he had to step up and be the number 9.
Exactly.
That's the mantle.
That's when he went back to being a number 9 as opposed to being like a second striker with Carlos Tevez as well and tracking back all the time. And that partnership he had with Park Ji-sung and Nani, Park Ji-sung and Valencia, Nani and Valencia, that was quite fun to watch as well because it was a counter-attacking style of play that Sir Alex Ferguson really liked to do. And that's kind of why he got rid of Ruud Van Nistelrooy to an extent, because he wanted to build on Ronaldo and Rooney moving forward, and that's what he did to an extent. But Anthony, I just want to kind of ask you a bit more about your meeting with Wayne Rooney, if you're allowed to kind of share that with us, if you don't have to sign an NDA or anything like that as well.
Yeah, so I was on an NBA trip to Washington, and I think Rooney had just joined Washington as a player.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just collared him. It was him and his son, Kai Rooney. And, yeah, he was all right. He gave us, it wasn't a pre-planned meeting, but he gave us 10 minutes of his time. He wouldn't speak about Man United then, but Yeah, no, he's a legend. His son called me Kevin Hart. Apparently, I look like Kevin Hart. So yeah, it was a bit dodgy because I don't think I look anything like him. But now Rooney was a good guy. He's really personable.
You know, I'm
He'll let
making a
anyone.
video about this and making a side by side with you and Kevin Hart. I'll find
Yeah,
the
you
most
got.
Kevin Hart looking
That
picture of
is
you, but it
iconic.
Yeah.
still won't look like Kevin Hart.
Yeah, no. But no, he's obviously a legend, and he was just so approachable as well. You'd think someone of his stature, he'd have loads of security around him. But obviously in America, it's a bit different. Like, not many people will class him as like LeBron James or Kobe Bryant on that level. But yeah, no, he's just a family man, I think. And he's just a normal lad from Liverpool who obviously had an unreal talent. He made it to the top of English football. And yeah, props to him. I had him at number 2, but yeah, he can be number 1 as well.
What was your favourite moments with Wayne Rooney at Manchester United? Do you have any one or two that kind of stand out for you? Obviously, we'll talk about the City goal. We'll talk about the Newcastle goal. But anything kind of after that? Because for me, I really loved his games against Arsenal personally. I love the fact he would take it to them every other game. That was fun for me, especially for all of us being Londoner Man United fans as well. But did you have anything kind of after the main kind of top heights that Wayne Rooney hit that you kind of appreciated, Anthony?
I was going to say the Newcastle goal, just because of the clash with the referee. I just think that was funny. I think he was about to be substituted as well. He was obviously mouthing off the referee, and the way he hit that ball with venom into the top corner, that's one of the standout goals that will be remembered for a long while. And obviously the City bicycle kick. I know it came off his shin, but still another big goal. I think we won that game. Was it 3-2?
2-1.
2-1 was it? Yeah, and
Yeah,
that was the winner, wasn't it?
that was
So
a winning goal.
yeah, no, he was a legend. Obviously, there was a bit of a bad mark when he wanted to leave. It looked like he wanted to go to City. He was pushing for that move, but he saw sense in the end and stayed. So yeah, he's going to be a legend forever.
Definitely. And Zim, obviously, the highest record goal scorer and player that we had. And I'm going to say player loosely because he was a striker at times. He was a midfielder at times. He was a number 10 at times as well. But was there a kind of essence in Wayne Rooney's attacking play that really got you going as a young kid, as someone who liked to dribble? Because Wayne Rooney could dribble even to his mid-30s as well. I remember one of my favourite moments personally is watching Wayne Rooney live against Tottenham Hotspur after he had that incident about getting knocked out in a video with Phil Bardsley, and then he played against Tottenham with a Lou Van Gaal side. So Carrick scored, Fellaini scored, or Fellaini then Carrick, and then Wayne Rooney scored. He went past Bentaleb like he wasn't there. He nutmegged, I think, Eric Dyer, or he nutmegged one, went past another one, slotted it past Hugo Lloris, and this is him at like 31, 32. And he's been playing since he was 16, 17 years old. So he showed that he still had it, even to the age that he was, and he had that iconic boxing celebration as well. But was there any iconic moments for you that really stood out for Wayne Rooney and for yourself as well as growing up?
I had him on the back of my shirt. Every shirt that I got, every Man United shirt I got was Rooney. And yeah, talking about when he was just briefly, when he was planning to leave or thinking about leaving, like that was devastating. And I had trust issues thereafter. Like that's how much he meant to me. But yeah, no, I'd say obviously the ones that you mentioned go without saying. Like the Newcastle one definitely stand out to me. It just I love imperfection. I love like when we think about football, right? We think about romance and you know, like it's an emotional game. Like, why do we support who we support, whether it comes to teams or players? Like, they give you a feeling, they give you moments, right? So, because otherwise you can support anyone else, right? And with Rooney, because of his imperfections, because he was flawed, but then he would like sprinkle a touch of brilliance, like quite regularly, actually. That's that's what drew me to him. You know, he can do everything. He had the lot, you know, and people used to get at his looks. People used to say stuff like Shrek and stuff like that. I was like, what? Why are you? Why are you thinking about that? Like, look at what he does on the pitch. Like, it's beautiful what he does on the pitch. You know, you could call it a juxtaposition, but like, it's fascinating what he does from counter attacks in the Champions League against Arsenal. You know, when you're running the full length of the pitch, you see Ronaldo in a fast corner, left foot, perfect weighted pass after sprinting the whole pitch, you know, to you know, you're out of breath, but you still had that composure to get the ball with the right weight to Ronaldo to finish it off. I've played Sunday League. I know the pitches are better in, you know, Premier League and Champions League, right? But to get that on point is so difficult. Like when you play Sunday League and, you know, play against, you know, they're decent players in Sunday League, like people that can kick ball. and then you realize like these lot are levels ahead, but they make everything look so easy. It's just I just have to just give it up to them, you know, like Rooney, the fact that he was so accurate with things like free kicks to yeah, volleying from outside the box to, you know,
Long
dinking it
range
over the
passing.
keeper
Van
exactly,
Persie.
but then also track back and slide tackle a fullback or something like that. He could literally do everything. So there's too many memories to name. I think even his last goal, you know, when we were on a demise, obviously post Fergie, he scored a free kick,
The one
top
against
bin.
Stoke.
Yeah,
A
top
record
bin,
breaking goal.
record
Last
breaker.
minute.
And just calm celebration, just hands in the air. It's
So get the ball back. Let's get one more.
yeah. It's
He
like
was a clutch player, wasn't he? He was a clutch player. And he was
literally.
so selfless as well. Like, as I said, that 07-08 team was my favourite team. Most of the time, Rooney had to be on the left wing. Even though he was a
Yeah,
number 10, even though he was a number 9, he was
yeah,
covering Ronaldo because he knew Ronaldo wouldn't track back.
yeah.
So to be part of that team, to be so selfless, helping Rooney, helping Tevez, yeah, he's a clutch player, man. So yeah, you've changed my mind. I think he's number 1.
Numero uno, the floor genius from Liverpool, Wayne Rooney.
Oh,
What a player.
just to add, sorry. Yeah, the fact that he could do everything, but when it came down to goal scoring, he could do that too. That's key. That's what separated it for me and him and Ruud. Yes, Ruud was a bagsman, but Rooney, when he was asked to be the main number 9 after Ronaldo and Tevez left, it was like, yeah, cool, I've got this. He's like, chill, I've got this, and he really did. So yeah, that's it.
Nah, that's it, man. What a way to talk about Wayne Rooney and talk about the top 10 Man United strikers from our list anyway, which is great to see. But again, with Wayne Rooney, I think got more than 250 goals in Manchester United colours for him to be someone who's been revered as England's top goal scorer until Harry Kane took over recently as well. It kind of goes to show that he was kind of that, again, flawed genius in so many different ways, and he just got underappreciated a lot. Even now, he gets underappreciated a lot with what we do. And that's why I love talking about him with like-minded people who appreciate Wayne Rooney for what he was as a footballer. And obviously with Anthony Hay giving us the impression of him as a man, it makes it so much more sweet to actually know how much he actually did care about other people, talk with other people, give them a time of day. It's great to see as well.
And even though the media was so harsh on him, he still gave me time. He could have been like, nah, just go away, because he knew that I was from the Daily Mail. I think my colleague was at the Sun at the time. So yeah, he still gave us time. And also 253 United goals. Will anyone ever match that? I think it's going to be very hard.
Wout Weghorst won't match that. That's all I'm saying. Wout Weghorst won't match
How's
that.
Rashford doing? Like, I think he'll probably be the closest, like, if he stays. But yeah, it's going to be very, very difficult. It's a good point. Very, very difficult.
Yeah, it's crazy to see. I mean, when we all met last summer as well, we talked about who would eventually replace Ronaldo, and we were talking about like Christopher Nkunku. We were talking about Martial could still lead the line. I'm not even sure if we can find another striker like that who can actually look at getting the 250 goals, unless we find someone like a Rasmus Højlund from Atlanta. Maybe if you do go for like a Vlahovic and we build around him over the next couple of seasons as well, it's going to be very, very difficult to see the future of Manchester United getting to maybe even close of north of 100 goals, because Marcus Rashford, 2015-16 season to 2023 season, 6-7
So
years.
Rashford's on 122. So he's still got another, 130?
130.
So maybe that's doable, I suppose, if he's at us for another, like, 5, 6, 7 seasons.
5-6 seasons. It's definitely doable. As long as he's got more strength and depth and he's got the support around him, he could maybe eclipse that before, again, 30 years old, I'd say. He's 24, 25 now, so I reckon he'd be able to do that, which would be quite nice as well. But yeah, just to go through our list one more time. Number 10, we had Teddy Sheringham, treble winner, impact player coming into the team. We had Zlatan Ibrahimovic at number 9, who, again, another impact player coming in for a season, scoring the goals that he had. Absolute showman of a player as well. Would love watching him, and I spent more times than not going to watch Man United that season because of Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Number 8, we had Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, our Champions League match winner back in 1999, and obviously former manager. Carlos Tevez may ruffle some feathers, but he definitely won't ruffle any of our feathers for being at number 7. Amazing striker and potentially one of the most key components we had as a striker back in 2007, 2008. Dwight Yorke we had at number 6, who we're really happy to have, again, another impact player in the 1999 season. Zim, why don't you round off the number 5 to 1 for us, please? So who did we have at number 5?
I believe we had, was it the Dwight Yorke? No, we have Van Persie at number 5.
And
We
Persie
had
at number 5.
Van Persie number 5. Then we had Andy Cole number 4, and we had King Cantona at number 3. Then we had Ruud at number 2. I used to think that celebration people were booing him because he was so good. Like if you hear it in the back, I was like,
all around the stadium. Even he thought he was
yeah.
booing. Came out and said that, I think, as well. It's like, oh yeah, no, we just love you, Ruud. Ruud.
And yeah, finally at number 1, well deserved, Wazza. We have Wayne Rooney. Remember the name.
He goes by the name of Wayne Rooney. Unreal. And that's the thing. Like sometimes you won't see players like this anymore because of the whole. We've spoken about this before, Zim and Anthony. You'll know as well. The whole system type of football that you see nowadays. Everyone has to fit a system. Everyone has to play in multiple positions. Sometimes the flawed genius isn't there. Sometimes the definitive goal scorer isn't there anymore, and kind of gets kicked out of football. Unfortunately, gets talked down upon, which ain't great. But football was about entertainment. Football was about showmanship, and a lot of these players that we have in our top 10 list were showmen in their own sense by scoring goals and scoring goals of different varieties, which are great to see as well. Right.
Just one other player to mention quickly, just because I didn't put him on my list. But
I was going to say honourable mentions anyway, but yeah, go for it.
Louis Saha, I just think if he was fit, I think Fergie put in his book, and I think Rio said it, he was one of the best strikers United ever had if he was fully fit. In training, right foot, left foot, header, he could score any type of goals, but obviously he was just injury prone. So yeah just honourable mention to Saha.
Honourable mention to Dimitar Berbatov for me. Yeah. Again, a lot of people forget that 2010-11 season when Wayne Rooney was injured in and out the side. A young Javier Hernandez in the team as well. Dimitar Berbatov, top scorer of that season, didn't make the Champions League final squad, which I still find a bit insulting. That Michael Owen came on as a sub in that game and didn't really make an impact. But even so, Berbatov left 2 seasons afterwards as well, which is a shame. But a touch of class, touch of elegance, touch of poise, and the fact that he had probably one of the best first touches I've ever seen from a footballer as well goes to show how well he was as a striker as well. Zim, any honourable mentions from you?
I was just thinking about Martial because of well, I don't even know if it's my honourable mention, but I'm thinking about how injured Saha was, and because we were in a winning team then, it kind of no one really spoke about it as much as with Martial now. I know his impact wasn't as much, but I do remember the season where him and Rashford bagged like over 20 goals, and I was like, this could be our strike partnership for the future. So yes, it's a bit of a shame that it's kind of phased out a little bit, fizzled out, because post Sir Alex we haven't had great signings, but this could have been a potential one for the future. So yeah, he was just on my mind. I don't know if that counts as an honourable mention, but what could have been, let's say.
Definitely. Trying to think who else. Now we're not going to go down the road of Danny Welbeck, Federico Macheda. That's a bit too much. I mean, Mark Hughes obviously was before my time, but he will definitely get an honourable mention. Brian McClare, of course, again before my time, but he'd get appreciation as well. That's kind of it, I would say, in terms of who we can kind of mention from the Premier League era.
Main Biram Juice, do you remember him?
Oh, what a player. I remember more at Stoke for getting ruined by Anthony Martial. If you remember that as well. Anthony Martial made him do the splits. He scored one goal, I think, against Burnley, if I remember. Mame Biram Diouf, and that was it, from what I remember. Who else are we trying to think? We had so many strikers that just haven't worked out. Some from our academies. Cavani, honourable mention right there as well. He had a decent time and then didn't really want to play the second season as well. Just wasn't bothered with it. And then it's been quite nice. And we're definitely not going to mention another Dutchman called Ruud Van Nistelrooy. It's definitely not the guy. Yeah, crazy to see. Right then, everyone, before we wrap up our podcast, Anthony and Zim are going to share one more suggestion for who they want this summer for Manchester United to sign as their striker. So we've got quite a few to go through. I may have to do my own little video on this as well for the podcast, but I think when you've got people like Marcus Thuram on a free, you've got Harry Kane potentially going out of contract, who said he still loves being at Spurs, deluded as he is, or maybe he's doing really good PR. Anthony, who are you kind of thinking you would want as a number one striker for next season, first game of the season at Old Trafford? Who would you want?
Unlimited budget? Anyone?
Unlimited budget. Who would you want?
I'd go for Harry Kane. Obviously, Mbappe would be the dream. Haaland, I absolutely love, but I just think Kane, as we said about Van Persie, you knew he came in, hit the ground running. Kane guarantees you 25 goals easy.
Yep.
Like, imagine him linking
And
up
the
with
assists as well.
Hernandez. Imagine him linking up with Bruno, with Sancho. You could probably get more out of Rashford. I'd personally go for Harry Kane. I know a lot of people want Osimhen because he's younger. Obviously, Kane's 29. He's had his ankle injuries, but I still think he can go on for another 4 or 5 seasons. Like, players are lasting longer now. He's quite a fit individual. I know he's talked about going into NFL eventually, but I'm sure he'll do that when he's like 40 or something. So, yeah, I think Harry Kane for me, he'd be, what's he going to be, 100 mil? I know, obviously, Tottenham are hard to deal with, but I'd slap all my money on him.
They'd rather sell to us than to Chelsea, who are looking for a number 9 as well, which would be the case. Zim, did you say you'd go for the same? Go for Harry Kane?
Yeah, for sure. I think, with Kane as well, you mentioned assists and everything. I think he's the whole package what we need. And yeah, I think the ankle thing is a bit overstated as well. I don't remember the last time he was injured, to be honest. Like yeah, he's very available. He's got a good availability, so I'm not worried in that front. Yeah, there's like obviously other names like Rasmus Højlund. You actually mentioned him earlier on the podcast, like, but these wouldn't be number ones. These would be like, backup strikers, because we can't just, Harry Kane will come in to start, but we definitely need more depth than that. And yeah, him, I think Højlund's more of a similar profile to Osimhen in that yeah, he's like a very physical, very quick. He's actually quite good with his feet. But I think Harry Kane, in terms of what we can guarantee, is what we need. That's pure and simple as that.
Yeah, Napoli will try and sell him Osimhen for an arm and a leg as well. So it'll be one of those where if you were to go for someone Premier League proven, then someone who you need to kind of risk it on for a year. Because again, we've seen, who have we seen? We've seen a lot of players come from Italy where they haven't really done that well in terms of when you're trying to buy strikers from them as well. It's been quite difficult.
Even the West Ham striker, Scamacca.
Scamacca, yeah, 40
Everyone
million.
was raving about him. Has he done anything?
You got Danny Ings in January to replace him because he wasn't even doing that well in terms of what they were looking for as well. Romelu Lukaku, obviously, he left Italy, coming back to Chelsea, didn't do like Chelsea, not doing that well in Italy again, getting used to it all as well. Goes to show that when you got someone like Edin Dzeko, who didn't really do that well at Manchester City after the title winning season, doing quite well at Roma, doing well at Inter Milan, another good kind of go. It's a big difference, I'd say, from Serie A for strikers than in the Premier League than any other position from what I've seen as well. You'll get defenders and midfielders coming from Serie A who are pretty good, but strikers is a big golfing quality in terms of scoring and settling into the league as well. Mostly because of the physicality of it, you would imagine, which would be the case. Few honourable mentions from me. I'd like to see someone like Marcus Thuram come on a free, maybe as a second striker. He's 25, 26 years old. Always been the main man for Mönchengladbach as well. Ideally, I would like to see Harry Kane come in. That would be the dream, because if you get Harry Kane in, like you said, he elevates everyone around you, like you would see a Teddy Sheringham or a Van Persie do as well. And for once, you would actually see Bruno Fernandes not being the main kind of focal point in an attack as well. When you're seeing teams now, saw West Ham the other day just all over Bruno Fernandes because they know Wout Weghorst. It's like that meme you see when someone's open in basketball because they know he's not going to score. That's what it's like when you see Wout Weghorst play for Man United. And it just goes to show that with Martial, his finishing's been poor this season as well. When he has been playing, it's not been great. And when Marcus Rashford isn't on it, we have not much else elsewhere. But when you got Harry Kane in the team, that would be perfect. That would be really, really good, which would be great. Right, everyone. Thank you very much for listening. Anthony, I just want to say thank you very much for your time as always. It's been great to see you again. Zim, as always, it's been great to see you and look forward to seeing you both hopefully later this summer, which will be great. And I think we're good to go. Everyone have a lovely week. Take care and goodbye.
Cheers.